Okay, Dad. So, what was your experience like the first time you stepped into Russia? It was your first time stepping into a foreign land. What was the feeling like?
Yeah, it is a very interesting experience I had. I remember when I alighted from the plane, they took us to a big hall. It was the first time in my life that I saw all the people white. Because when I left Nigeria, almost 99% or 99.9% of the people were black. But when I got to Russia, not even a single black man in the whole place that I saw. So when I came out, the interesting thing is that as I went to the taxi stop, everybody I was talking to, nobody understood me. Because it was a different language. Now I got the taxi driver. Then now to tell the taxi driver where I was going, I was talking of university. The only place the man knew was Lumumba. Any black man now is going to Lumumba University. I say, okay, Lumumba. And things will work well for me. As I was just alighting from the taxi, come and see Afilaka, just go. Afilaka, my friend, the person actually I would look for. He had no reason to be in Lumumba University at that time. He just stood up from his house and said he was going to see some friends in Lumumba. And the first person he saw was me. He had not even entered the place. And that was my first very interesting experience. And my other experience, which is very important, is that the following morning, because that was September 30, 1961, the following morning was the first independence celebration of Nigeria. And I participated in that. I have the photograph of that independence celebration. The man standing by myself then was Dr. Dejoraemi, who is now PDP. In fact, he's the pro-chancellor of University of Adukit. So it was the person standing by myself. Professor Shegun Odunuga was there too. Dr. Lasisi Osunde, the former secretary of NSC, was also in that picture. So many people. So that was my first experience when I got to the Soviet Union in 1961.
So, total, how many Africans would you say were in Russia that you met while you were there?
That is so difficult a question to answer. The only thing I know is that there were many Africans. There were many African students in Russia in those days. You know, it was free education for all of us coming there. So, what I know is that in my room at the preparatory faculty at Cherumuski in Moscow, we were living 4 in a room. In my room, we were 4. I was from Nigeria, Amadou Sangalali from Niger Republic, John Kojo from Ghana, and Amanto Camacho also from Cuba. He was a Latino. But one interesting thing about that room is that anytime I play Nigerian music, they liked it. Then suddenly the Cuban boy jumped up. Then he said, "You also know the language of my people." I said, "What is the language?" He said, "They are singing in my grandma's language." Apparently it was a Yoruba song. So he said that his grandma was he understood some of the Yoruba words which the grandma taught him. Apparently his grandma was the direct daughter of the slaves in Cuba, and most of the Yoruba slaves also were in Cuba in those days. So that's another experience in the hall.
And on completion from Russia, you came back to Nigeria. What was the experience like when you started to apply for work? And what kind of jobs did you target?
Yeah, well, I had a master's degree. I obtained a Master of Science degree in mathematics from Soviet Union. One interesting thing I've never told you is that I was the first Nigerian Russian trained mathematician. So when I got to Nigeria, I was looking for a job in the university because that is what I was. And the first university actually I went to was University of Ibadan. The unfortunate thing is that University of Ibadan wasn't ready to take me into the Department of Mathematics directly. First of all, the then registrar wanted me to go and be a teacher in international school because they badly needed a teacher of mathematics. And the man was telling me that I had a bright future, I would be the principal of the school very soon and things like that. I said, no, I want to teach in the university. But finally I went to they sent me to the Department of Mathematics. And I met Professor Olubumo. Later I got to know that he was the first Nigerian professor of mathematics. Professor Olubumo took a very keen interest in me. But one thing he wanted me to do was to be his PhD candidate for mathematics. And I told him I wasn't ready to be a candidate for mathematics now. And for PhD yet, I want to teach. And when we couldn't agree on that, I left Ibadan, I applied to Ife. When I got to Ife, that is where I had my first experience in Nigeria, seeking for a job. But I didn't give me too much headache. But in Ife, I applied to the place. They sent me cablegram 4 times. Each time I got there, they would tell me that the vice chancellor is not ready, or the vice chancellor is not at home. By the 4th attempt, I was told the vice chancellor had just come from Ibadan. So he phoned that I should wait for him at 2 o'clock. Then at 4:45, the vice chancellor sent another, phoned his secretary. The secretary then was Mr. Omobori, who later became the deputy governor to the late Governor Adasin of Ondo State. Omobori told me that the vice chancellor said, unfortunately, they will have to write me back again that it was too late because it was 4:45. So they said they would send me another cablegram. So the 5th cablegram came, and then I came to Ife. That day, I was given attention. So as I got into the interview hall, the table was set. The vice chancellor was there, right in the middle, flanked by the dean of science, Professor Ojobole, and one professor from Cambridge, one English professor. In the corner, another professor, a young man was sitting. Later I discovered that he had a bachelor degree. He was also in the mathematics department as a lecturer, as a lecturer. Where the registrar was there, Omobori was taking down notes. As I was sitting down, Professor Oluwasami said, "Hello, Mr. Atobatele, I'm an Ijesha man like you. I won't deceive you. There is no job." I was embarrassed. I said, "You called me 5 times for interview. This is the 5th time, and I've not even taken my seat. You are telling me that there is no job. When you know there is no job, why do you call me?" It doesn't make any sense to me. Then he said he was joking. I said, "Oh, you are joking at a place like this, at an interview? I don't come here to joke." Then he started putting some questions to me, or asking me some things, or telling me some things that infuriated me. Like, he told me one funny thing. He said, what I did in Krakow is not up to BSc. That it's not up to what the people who would take a bachelor degree in Ife will do. Then I told him, I said, "Oh, are you comparing Krakow State University with Ife that just started 4 years ago?" Krakow State University was already about 160 years old. Then later he told me, he said, oh, everything is. I said, no, I don't joke here. Because I know that the Kakos State University I attended produced some of the best world mathematicians like Chebyshev. Anybody who is in statistics and mathematics must have been used to take Chebyshev theorem. And the same department produced Markov, the person who originated and the theory was named, and the science was named after him. I mean, the topic, Markov chains. Also, the department produced Lyapunov, the father of stability theory. And of course, Kharkov University is the one that produced Professor Barabashov, one of the greatest astronomers. Of course, anytime they wanted to send people into space, Barabashov must be informed. So we have such great people from Kharkov. Of course, Pavlov. Anybody who studied medicine, people they call Pavlov the father of physiology. Pavlov was a professor in Kharkov. In fact, I was in his room because he made his room as a sort of museum. So that's the type of university where I graduated. Then I told Oluwasami, and then of course, I left the interview, we chatted, but so, by the grace of God, about a week later, I got a job at the University of Lagos, and that is where I spent my life for the next 8 years. So what other question do you want to ask?
Thank you very much. Another question I want to ask you is about your students. You have been teaching for well over 40 years, and you probably have a whole lot of students that have passed through your hands that have become very important personalities now. So can you tell us the ones that you remember, what kind of students they were, and if you could tell already that they were going to become very influential people in the future?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I started work in 1968. That's exactly 41 years ago. So this year now is exactly, I've just finished my 41st year in university. I've met so many students. My first student to note was somebody I never taught in the university. It's the person I taught at home as the lesson teacher. It was a sort, I was doing tutorial for him. We were then in the grammar school. But the very interesting thing is that the young man wasn't doing well when he was brought to me. Then I immediately got to me. He improved in such a way that I myself couldn't believe it. He happened to be a late starter. And that's one person I always remember as my first beautiful student, intelligent student I ever had. I'm so proud to have even been part of his tutorial lessons, and that is Professor Wale Omali, the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ife. Then among the students I taught at Lagos, I remember, I will say about 3 of them, but one is so, the 2 of them are so prominent. The first one is, in fact, I will tell you, is one of the most brilliant students I've ever seen, I've ever met, and that's Professor, who is that now Professor Ojewusi Ibidapobe, the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos. I taught him in first year, 1968-69, second year, 1969-70. And I will tell you, that's the person I've given the highest mark I've ever given any student. I remember I gave him 99%, 98%, 98%. And when I was leaving the university, I remember I went to Professor Chikobi and told him that a boy is going to make first class and to make sure that that boy is employed in the university. And the man agreed with me. He said, well, you're a young man. If you think that somebody is very good, that person must be excellent. Then I gave him his name. Because by then he was just starting, he was associate professor at that time. The following year, I became the head of department and professor. So luckily, Bida Kobe was employed. By the time I was in the US, he made a first class that I predicted. Everybody knew he was going to make it first. He made the first class and he was sent to Canada, and he came back in record time with a PhD. Unfortunately, he did the same thing I did. He moved from mathematics to engineering. And at Lagos, he became the youngest, one of the youngest professors that ever got the post as professor. And later became, I think he's the first vice chancellor of the University of Lagos who was produced also at the university. That's the first one. Then my second student that people will find difficult to believe was, well, I taught him because of the way the situation was in the country. I had a master's degree when I was teaching him as a graduate student. And that is Dr. Pastor Enoch Adeboye, the General Overseer of Redeem. I know the only time I talked to him was that was in 2005, which is about 30 something years, closely about 35 years when I taught him that he was in my class. I remember that when he was in my class, I told him twice that he was going to be a pastor. Two things I remember. The two times I was at the meeting for just 5 minutes, I had to be present and tell them I was going to class. So I told somebody to tell my class that I would late. When I got there, I met Pastor Adeboye in front of the class. Then I asked him, "What are you doing?" He was preaching to his classmates. The second time, when I came like that, he was in front of the class. "What are you doing?" He was settling quarrel. But one thing I remember is that he was that student who will always come with two types of books. One is the Bible, and the other one is the textbook. Then I told him, "You are going to be a pastor." It was in 2005 while talking to him, the only time I had the occasion to talk to him on the phone, and I told him the same thing. He said, "Oh, why did you say I was going to be a pastor?" I said, "Because you are behaving like a pastor." So when they say the general overseer is everything, I'm not surprised. One beautiful thing about the man that I will always remember is that he was very pleasant and, above all, very humble to a fault. Any other question you want to ask me?
Yes. Thank you very much. So there's one thing that I noticed actually while I was in University of Ibadan, that most of the students, when they see you, they shout, "Ooh!" So can you tell us how come they refer to you as Ooh? Some people call you Dr. Ooh. And anywhere I go in the country, in Nigeria, if there's anybody who has been in the Agric faculty, once I ask them, "Do you know anybody called Ooh?" they just get all excited. And then no matter how highly placed they are, they will usually just shout "Ooh." So why do they call you Ooh? How did this start, and why did they call you that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting. That is a very interesting question. Students are always very pleasant. If you want them to be pleasant to you, they be pleasant. If you want them to be nasty, they be nasty. It is the way you handle them, they behave, they react. This particular, I remember when the WHO started. In those days, I was teaching the faculty, two faculty courses. One was mathematics in agriculture. The other one was statistics and field experimentation. Those are the two faculty courses I was teaching in the large auditorium. So I was using microphone to talk because the hall was so big, and we need many of them are sitting far off from me. This particular day, the microphone in the auditorium wasn't working. So I asked one of the students to help me call the one of the university messengers at the corridor. So when the man came, I told him to please call me the person in charge of technical side in the dean's room, dean's office. So the man came and I complained about the microphone. He put some wires to some wires and did some things, and finally Gay told me that tap the thing, then the thing was working, and I wanted to test whether the microphone was working. Then I said, who? Then again, who? Before I said the third one, the student said, who? And that was what I remember. So when I was going home, they were saying, who? So every time they see me, it is who? That's how I got the name.
Thank you very much. So coming back to the home front now, I remember as a kid that you actually used to smoke. You're actually a chain smoker. So how did you start to smoke, and why did you stop? And then the third question is, if you could rewind time back, would you ever have started?
Okay. Now, my smoking, that's a very interesting question that I want to answer. My smoking is not by my own desire to smoke. It only teaches me one thing. When a father is doing something, must be very careful, because the children will adopt whatever you are doing. My father was a chain smoker. The man had the habit of, he was not keeping, my father was not keeping a box of matches, because he will use the cigarette that is getting off, that is quenching, to light the one that is going to smoke next. So in Nigeria, they say that is where English people will say he's a chain smoker. That's what my father was. Now, the man had the habit of throwing the cigarette on the floor outside. He had no ashtray. If it is anywhere, you just put it on the floor. Then if he has time, he can put it up, because how many of them is he going to put off? If you are you don't like it, you put it off yourself. But at the end of the day, in the morning when we wake up, the first thing we have to do in our house is to sweep the floor and do everything. So when we are sleeping floor, I will see so many of these cigarettes. Some of them even just moved halfway. And of course, in some days I wanted to practice what I saw my father doing. So I picked one of the cigarettes, I went to the back door, I managed to get matches from the kitchen, I lighted it at the back. Then I was doing what my father did. I cut hell out of myself the first day. The second, then funny thing, it becomes my habit of taking part of the cigarette, go and smoke. My first cigarette I bought was in 1954. I came from the grammar school. I was in Form 2. I went to the supermarket. I went to the market. It was so cheap. It was kobo. So I bought one cigarette for kobo. And of course, when I was at Elisha, my friend actually introduced me now. I feel like I was smoking. So and we were studying together. Since I've been smoking a little bit before, then I was now caught me say, I also know what I have to do. This. I was free. So I know in 1954 I started re-smoking. And I smoked all the time I was at Stony Brook. I was smoking too. In fact, at Stony, when I was in the US, I was already a chain smoker. I wasn't even satisfied with cigarette alone. I was now buying, I was smoking pipe along with it. After smoking my cigarette, then instead of waiting, I will use the pipe as the appetizer. In fact, I got to the extent of me buying some tobacco. They will say in the package, they say blended with whiskey, blended with cognac, blended. I had bad sense of smell, but I like buying the one with blended with something. So anytime I get into the subway, going to the city, smoking, Many of the women and elderly people will like to smoke, but sit by my side, because in those days you can smoke in the coaches. Then they ask me, what type of tobacco I use? I say, it's blended with whiskey. And they say, oh, the aroma is beautiful. And that makes me excited too. But now, when we got to, I stopped smoking when my wife died. The unfortunate thing is that one person I praised was my wife. The woman was able to cope with it. I was smoking in the bedroom. The woman didn't care, because I had been smoking by the time I met her. But now when my wife died, my little boy that was left, Afolabi was 18 months old when the mother died. So the little boy was about 3 years old. He kept looking at him each time I was smoking, and he was making his hand like this. He was smoking his hand. I said, oh, this is another wahala. Then one thing came to me. I was reading, say, if I die now, who will take care of this little boy? And that worried me. I don't know how the thought came. Say, if I die of lung cancer or anything, nobody will take on that boy or my kids. And I just, one day I was playing Ayo with my friend Professor Kibio Antoni. Then I showed him my cigarette. Apparently it was the last one in the last pack. And I decided that after that pack I won't buy anything today. So I told my friend, I said, Prof, you see this cigarette? This is my last cigarette. He said, what do you mean by that? After this, I will never smoke again. He said, truly? He said, that's good. So when I finished, I showed him. I put it on the floor, and I put my shoe on it, squeezed it, and said, bye-bye. My friend was saying, he said, your attitude is so funny. I said, well, after about 20 minutes, he said, Taiwo, you have not smoked. I said, I'm not smoking again. 30 minutes, 1 hour. He said, okay, ask somebody to go and buy me benzene and edges. He said, maybe I have no money. I said, no, I don't want to smoke. The fourth day, he said, let us see how you can keep it. The second day, I did not. Third day, fourth day, fifth day. The man said, for 3 days you have not smoked. I said, I'm not going to smoke. And that was the last. And I remember the date. That was August 17, 1987. So on August 17, 2007, it was exactly 30 years that I stopped smoking. Then I told my class, wait, 20 years, sorry. 20 years, from 87 to 2007. I remember I told my class here, my class at Staten Island, I told them, I said, I'm celebrating something today. They say, what is it? I said, today is exactly 20 years that I stopped smoking. Yeah, last year also I did it. It was 21. I always remember the date. It's my second birthday. August 17, 1987. So.
Thank you very much. And still on the home front, yeah, there was an unfortunate incident that occurred. But before we even talk about that, I want to ask, which day do you remember so far that has been the saddest day for you?
Yeah, the saddest day, I will put them as, actually I will put the days. So many, I have some sad days, yes. But one I remember most, two of them, when I lost my mother and when I lost my wife. Because that of my mother, the woman, like I told me that my mother, that I should go for interview in Ibadan, in Elisha, because I just left my job. I was looking for another job. I purposely left my job because I had no time to study. So it was when I was looking for a job that I lost my mother. Now, my mother was coming from Lagos. On Wednesday, he bought some shirts from Lagos. He gave me, I think, about 4 or 5 shirts. 2 of them the same. Reason why he bought, actually there are 3 different types. Then give me 5, 2 the same, and 1 for me alone. 2 for me and my friend. Because anytime he give me a shirt, anytime he comes to me, he find the shirt, my friend wearing it. Then to avoid that, as he buys me one, he buys for my friend too. But then he bought me one extra, that is mine. Now, I did not even open the packet. I just told Falabi, I said, I've got, Falabi Afilaka, I said, I've got some shirts for you. He said, oh, I said, when you come to me, you get it. Then he told me, he said, by the way, I'm to go to Elisha, that I was to go for an interview. He talked to a bank manager. When I get to Elisha, he will phone through the post office. I will go there to take the call. I said, okay. Not knowing that he had that my mother had an accident. The mother who saw me on Wednesday, when coming from Lagos, and left me with a packet. Now I had to go 2 days later on Friday. They said she had an accident. So I got to Elisha. In the night, I slept. My uncle wasn't around. When he came, he did not bother me. When I woke up in the morning, because I was Chief Arakpate's house, then my uncle, I greeted him in the morning. He said, Taiwo, who told you? I said, told me what? About your mother. I said, what happened to my mother? I said, I come here for safety. Said, your mother is in the hospital. I said, what happened? He said, oh, there was an accident, but nothing happened to him. To her. Sorry. So I went there. I went to the hospital to see. The woman talked to me for about 4 hours, talking to me about my sister, about myself, saying all sorts of things. By around 1:30, they told me they were going to take her to surgery because they said she had internal injury. She was going to have, they were going to operate on her. I knew the time they were going to her there, I would say, pray for me. I was praying for her. 1 hour later, the doctor came out to tell me that the woman is dead. The woman that was talking to me. I was devastated. It was a very sad day for me. That was one. Then the second one was my wife. Also, my wife was very sick. The day she was to die, I was talking to the doctor. The doctor was telling me that it was fever. You yourself remember it. We went to we were going from my house she had personal doctor in Jaja, a friend. We went there. Then we leave that place. We went to Sebajo in UCH. We couldn't get any of them. We were going up and down. And then in the evening, we were to take her to, they said the best thing is to take her to UCH. I went with Coyote. We went there. Then when we got to the clinic, at the university clinic, they look at the pulse. They said, oh, the pulse wasn't, they couldn't even get any pulse at all. The woman told me, hold my hand. I held her hand. Then they said we had to take her to the hospital, but the ambulance wasn't around. So you had to use my old car. As we were about to get into the car, it was so difficult for her. Then suddenly the ambulance pulled her. They said, oh, this is the ambulance. And it means we have to take her for another 10 feet or so. Not even up to, just 10 feet. That 10 feet looks like 10 miles to the poor woman. As we were going towards the car, then she collapsed. And that was it. It was the worst day of my life. And by the time we got to UCH, they were taking her, they were saying she just collapsed, everything will be okay. By the time I got to UCH, I just saw the lifeless body of my dear wife. So it was a day I don't always want to remember. That's the second.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I want to ask you when you lost your wife, and this is this is now 25 years ago, approximately.
Yeah.
How come you have not remarried ever since?
Well, for the first 7 years, I had no interest in even having a friend or something like that. Well, people just give me casual friends, hello, how do you do? But by the time I had the first friend, and she came, she was wanting me to come to my house. Actually, when she came to my house, she came on a weekend, on a visit, with the hope that she come on Friday and go on Monday. No, Friday and go on Sunday. Sunday she didn't go. She said, I will go tomorrow morning, and we were changing it to. Then finally say, where are you driving me? She stayed, and that's how she was in my house. 2 months later, she was pregnant. In fact, when she said she was pregnant, we went to check it. We went for the ultrasound. Then the woman came to me and said, Baba Beji. I said, what do you mean by that? By the time I looked at it, I have it at home. The paper she gave me that day, she never knew I kept it. I have it. I still have it with me. From the ultrasound, they drew the 2 things and put 2 dots. Said twins. The sentiments of having the twins, I say, where do I ask her to go? Whether I want a wife or not, she's already there. So she stayed. And she would have been the wife, actually. Unfortunately, we had nothing we did for marriage or something. It would have been the Yoruba way she's supposed to be a wife. But the unfortunate thing is that the woman Mama Beji couldn't cope with my family. The time I come, it's either trouble or no trouble. The kids who had no mother, who wanted peace, who thought they had a new mother coming to the house, was a new nagging, I won't say mother now, nagging woman coming to be. So we had no choice. Finally, everybody knew the episode where she left. It was fight almost every day. And most of the fights had nothing to do with me. It's either I come from the studies and I see her highly on one of my kids. There's one incident I know that I always don't want to remember. The day I saw little Folabi crying, and I was told that Baby told Folabi that don't kill me as you kill your mother. I never thought that that statement would come from a woman that is a mother herself. Though I say this, I love my kids, Terry and Kendi, they are the kids, and I'm happy their brothers and sisters love them, so they have no problem. But when it comes to their mother, it's a girlfriend. That's it.
Thank you very much. So now let's move to some happy questions. Which day would you say was the happiest of your life and why?
There's no day that is the happiest. I have so many happy days. For example, in fact, this question myself, I put it to myself one day, and I was trying to recount, and I can't know which one is the happiest. I start with one date that is very crucial to me. This was December 1952. I've taken so many entrance examinations that year. In March, I took the first entrance exam. I came second out of over 2,000 students to Beaumont Grammar School. We were to be the foundation members. When the result came out and I was elected, my father said no, I wouldn't go there because I was in standard 6. I was to enter in March, but 2 of us got the admission. I and my brother, Olu. So Papa said we were to pay $90 per annum and £90, and that was a lot of money then. The man said that with the experience of Bachelor, I think you have to wait. Bachelor is our big brother who went to Elisha Grammar School because the cost was too much in the grammar school for those people in those days. Anyway, I took the second one. My father said he wanted us to be teachers. So we went to Methodist Young Teachers course. That was after transit, that is just a month at Elekuro in Ibadan. Now, one day I took the entrance examination to Oyo Baptist Bible School. The result came out of all the students from Obosho who went for the entrance, more than 50 of us. And of course, for the entrance, we were up to about 3,000 from all over Oyo and suburb. I came first. They sent the result. My father said no, I wouldn't go there. I say, if I can only go to secondary school if I pass to Elisha Grammar School. And that of Elisha Grammar School, the result had not come out. So by the time, what makes the day a happy day for me in December was that My headmaster it was in the night, around 8. The man was dancing right from the gate. Say everybody should dance with him. They say, what is it? He said this little boy has put his school on the map beyond your area. They say what? They said the result of Elisha Grammar School came. I think I came first or second. So it was there. And they said there is possibility of my being given scholarship. They don't know yet, but it wasn't announced. Now I went to Elisha Grammar School. Exactly two weeks that I got to the school, somebody saw me say, hey, scholarship boy. I didn't know what that meant. They asked me to go and look at the board that my name is there. I said, for what? When I got there, I was awarded government scholarship as the best boy by entrance examination. It was a happy day for me. So that's my first happy day. The second happy day. My second happy day was the day I landed in Moscow. You understand me? When I landed in Moscow, the day I entered the university, when I entered the University of Kharkov, 1962, as the first Nigerian mathematics, the first Nigerian, in fact, the first African to be enrolled in Kharkov. 2 days later, some people came. By the end of the year, we were 4. But I was the first African enrolled and the first African Nigerian to study mathematics in the university. That was another happy day. But a very happy day in the school was the day I got my MSc. That I got a master's degree in mathematics. It was a happy day for me. Because that day I was like a drunkard. I was doing around the street, doing nothing. So that is a happy day too. Another happy day was when I got married. I was extremely happy. I got married. I think by the time I got married exactly 10 years after losing my mother. So it was, I've got somebody to substitute the woman I lost. That makes it a very happy day for me too. Then one happy day for me, which I recall one of the happiest, was the day my wife wrote me a letter. He said, after staying in the hospital for more than 24 hours, I finally got Coyote into the world. I have the letter in my house. Did you see it? I have the letter in my house. The letter my wife wrote about Coyote. See, now I have a baby boy. Being a new father, I was roaming aimlessly around the campus for about 2 hours. Now I look at myself. Now I'm a new father. That's another happy day, very happy day for me. Then again, one day, they simply gave me, they say, I have me in economics. That's another happy day. Then, of course, the day I got my PhD. After I was said and done, up and down, because the PhD cost me a lot. Yeah. In my acknowledgement, I wrote something about the PhD that is sad. When I started the PhD, I was able to defend it. My supervisor died, Professor Atobatele. He was to sign my paper on Friday. He said he wanted it to be typed and then it would sign on stencil. By the time they finished, he was already packing. He said he was traveling to Elisha. He said, Taiwo, I will sign that paper on Monday to be told on Friday by Dr. Luge that my supervisor died. So he never signed that paper. It was another person in the head of the department, Professor Antonio, who signed the paper, now sitting as the supervisor. I didn't want to defend the thesis at that time and say, no, it's too much for me. Then suddenly they advised me, why not? Well, they will put Antonio will be the thesis, the head of the department will be the supervisor. Then as I was about to defend the thesis, my wife died. What? Again. And then I threw away the defense. Then I don't want to see anything anymore. They had to beg me to defend that thesis. By the time I decided after 1 year to defend the thesis, some of my data have lapsed. So I had to collect some new data to augment what I had before and rewrite. And finally, I defended the thesis on the 16th of November, 1986. And then I did the convocation in 87 and got my PhD. That makes it a happy day. And one of the happiest day again, one day was not the day I landed in the United States, but the day I got my TT, my first daughter-in-law was with me. I've been going for some time for a visa. They turned us back. Then again, we went back. We thought we sit in the car. I think, is that what barrack is that? One barrack around the place by the side of the embassy. Then this day, I never knew what was going on outside. They have turned me back and say, the affidavit of support, you need to write something more. Anyway, finally, the day they asked me to come, when the man said, oh, you have everything okay, now you are all right. Then he started writing something. I said, God, so am I going to get this in? Then he gave me the package, my green card. So when I got it, as I came out, it was rain all over the place. I put it in my coat, and then I had no, because we never planned for a jacket. I just used my coat to cover my head and ran to where